Oh, it is. Yeah.
So, Carol, you're going to drive the slides on your side, right?
Yes. Yes, I'll do
Okay.
that.
All right.
Mentiga. Taste it. It's working.
Good morning to everybody who has just joined us. A warm welcome to our AOI Wisdom Wednesday. We will be beginning our session at 11 o'clock. So you are more than welcome to go grab some coffee or a little bit of water until we start the session. And also please engage with us on our Menti polling. We did put the link on the chat function, but for those of you who have just joined us, we'll post the link in there for you. We are asking, because we are halfway through the week, how are you feeling today? Please share with us, and we will begin at 11. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, everybody. A warm welcome to today's Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Pumla, and a very warm welcome to everybody, and thank you for joining us. Today, we are talking about growing your problem solving and critical thinking skills. And as usual, I am not on my own. I am with Carol. Carol is an experienced leader, social worker, and EWP specialist with diverse skills in clinical tertiary education and corporate environments. And I'm sure if you are normally joining us in our Wisdom Wednesday, you know who exactly she is. We would like for you to please engage with us also on our Menti and let us know, since we are halfway through the week, how are you feeling today? I'm certainly feeling good, and I'm welcoming summer. How are you doing, Carol? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for that warm welcome, Primla. Oh, I agree with you. I can feel spring in the air. My energy levels are up. Even though I'm tired, my energy levels are up. I'm feeling positive, and I'm so happy to be here today with everybody. So thank you for joining, and thanks to everybody else who's joined. Let's let's see. I see somebody else is feeling exhausted, and we have busy but good. So a bit of a mixed bag there, but please to those that have joined, feel free to join us on Menti, engage with us. If you feel more comfortable using the chat, you're very welcome to do that as well. But we'd love to hear from you, and we'll pose a few other Menti questions as we go along today.
All right, so for today, we're talking about problem solving and critical thinking. On our agenda, we'll start with the why it matters to be a problem solver and a critical thinker. And if not, what do you do to problem solve? And what are the things that one can do to implement problem solving, especially in the workplace, especially for us who are also juggling working and studying? We will dive into the definition of problem solving as well as critical thinking. And Carol will be giving us helpful techniques and strategies to grow our skills and also giving us practical examples that we can be able to use in our practically in our day-to-day lives at work as well as in the workplace. With that being said, over to you, Carol.
Thank you so much, Pumla. Thank you. I always find when it comes to critical thinking, maybe some of you have had that recently, or you can think back even to maybe a matric paper or some exam paper you wrote where they'd say, critically discuss this argument on why the Second World War was a good war, or whatever it might be. And as soon as I saw that word critical, my brain would sort of freeze up and I'd be like, I don't know how to think critically. What does that even mean? And then when it comes to problems, it's just goodness, sometimes they just seem overwhelming. And we don't know where to start when it comes to trying to solve a problem, whether it be a small one, whether it be a big one. They just seem to catch us by surprise, don't they? So I'm excited for today's session to unpack this with you. And thank you, Pumla, for summarizing everything we're going to cover today. I think we're going to start off with problem solving and certainly with problems. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you, today being Wednesday, halfway through the week, have you already faced a tricky problem this week? You can just respond for us on Menti, yes, no. I see somebody else has said no, they haven't had a tricky problem, which is lovely to hear. Oh, and somebody, there's that yes, a big red yes. Um, I had it twice this week already that my internet, quite a wide area, has just dropped, and I have like such a heavy workload. And then I just noticed that the internet goes down, and that's a problem, right? When you're trying to work and you don't have access to the internet, and trying to quickly solve that and jump into action is quite exhausting. And there's so many reasons that the internet can drop. I find it quite overwhelming. So that's been my tricky problem twice this week, and I'm hoping that it does not happen again today or for the rest of the week. But what problems have you maybe faced? The internet is just a very basic one I'm sharing with you, but let's be honest, we all experience problems and challenges in different shapes, forms, sizes. Um, what really matters is how do we solve those problems? What do we do when they hit us? Because again, I say they tend to take us by surprise. We can't always foresee some of the problems that we're going to face, right? But here on a personal level is just a short, snippet of some of the problems that could come up any day, any week, any month, any year of our life. We go through relationship challenges or maybe life changes as well. That could be, whether it's something like moving your house or moving where you live. It could be just adapting to some changes within your family. We go through financial problems. Unfortunately, such a reality for so many of us is, the economy just kind of keeps spiraling and cost of living keeps going up. And then things happen and take us by surprise, with what drains our finances. Health and well-being challenges, those come up when we least expect them and when we least need them to come up. Suddenly we get the flu, suddenly we have an injury. I suffered an injury just over a month ago, and it knocked me for a six in terms of just feeling like I couldn't get on top of things. I was always in pain. I needed to go to the doctor so many times. We don't see those challenges and problems coming, but we got to keep moving and keep going, right? Time management challenges as well. I'm going to bet if I asked you all to raise your hand, those of you who are struggling with managing time right now, I'm going to bet that all 65 of us on today's session would probably raise our hands. There, I can see Ricardo. Thank you. I see your name pop up with a hand. Time, Haley. Oh my goodness, yes. What is that? Where do we find the time? Especially when you're trying to study, when you're trying to work, when you're trying to manage everything you have on your plate and juggling those. Thank you, Vulinda. I see you raising your hand. They are going up fast and furiously. But managing time, juggling those responsibilities that we have, and keeping all those balls, in the air, that becomes a super challenge. And again, I don't know about you, but I'm finding it gets worse from September, right? Suddenly there's all those deadlines. Suddenly the crunch is on to get everything done before December, when we can finally, on the 16th of December, we can exhale and we can get back on our feet and, kind of catch our breath and get ready for the new year. But personal problems aren't just happening. There's also workplace challenges for those that are working. We get workload, just stress with those deadlines, with targets, with again, so many things that we need to do on our to-do list. Sometimes it's around career development. Maybe the path we wanted to be on is not quite going the way it should, or there's certain skill gaps that we have where we just can't do what we're meant to be doing, or do it at the pace that we're meant to do it at work, and we feel like we start to fall behind on our deliverables at work, or just generally on our performance. Work-life balance, there's that time issue again, and all those things that we're juggling. You're trying to fit in your studies. You're trying to fit in work because you have to earn a living, right? And you're trying to just live and be a human with all the different responsibilities that you have. And we only get 24 hours in the day. So how do you balance all of that and keep your head above water? And there can be conflict in the workplace as well. Sometimes our colleagues don't quite see things the way we do, or perhaps the pressure that's being put on us from a leadership or a management level results in us finding us in quite a conflictual place where we're struggling to meet the expectations, or we're struggling to do what we need to do and be who they want us to be. And that causes conflict in relationships as well. Or different personalities can just trigger, different problems for us in the workplace. So absolutely, problems are there. I don't think there is a job without problems. I don't think we go through a study journey without problems. I don't think there's anybody who could say they have a personal life that doesn't have problems. And sometimes we're blessed and it's problem free and we have a nice sort of smooth moment in time, which is wonderful and we embrace it. But absolutely, they're going to come at us in different shapes and forms, as I've said. So, why then is problem solving and critical thinking so important? Well, it's important, as you can hear, in our personal lives and in our daily lives as we come across problems and we come across challenges and we need to sort them out. Or, of course, when we're studying and in the workplace where we need to be able to solve problems quickly because time is always of the essence. So why are they important? Well, they help you to dig deeper into information and the facts that you are learning. And that's particular for critical thinking. So you don't just take things at face value. If I showed you this image on the screen and I said to you, that thing at the bottom there, that's a circle. And you just had to go, okay, Carol says it's a circle. I'm seeing a square, so it must be a circle. That where critical thinking comes in is when you start to challenge it and you start to think a bit deeper and you think, well, maybe Carol's perception of shapes are a little bit different to mine because goodness me, I'm pretty sure that's a square. But let me have an open mind about this. Let me try to understand why Carol sees a circle when I see a square. And let me try to dig a bit deeper to investigate this, to do a little bit of research. What shape is that really? So I'm just giving you a very basic example here of some critical thinking when somebody challenges you and sees it from a different perspective. And you have a choice. You can take it, with what the person is saying, or take their perception, or go, okay, sure, it's a circle. But deep down inside, you probably are disagreeing, and that critical thinking is already kicked in. So, why these skills are so important and why I'm challenging you with this today is that it helps us. It helps us in so many ways when we do think more critically and when we try to solve problems. We also learn the value of teamwork because many problems we can't solve ourselves. We do need, even if it's one more person, just to help us out. Maybe it's the information they can share with us. Maybe it's their perception and their argument that they can share with us that will help us to think more critically and think of different ways to solve the problem. You can also make more informed decisions if you critically think about things and if you are able to solve your problems because you don't just quickly make a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, yes, okay, that's a circle. So I'm now going to write a whole essay on a circle, just as an example. But you'll make a more informed decision because you've thought deeper, you've analyzed it, you've done your research, you've put information together, and you then ready to make a more informed decision about which direction you are going to go in. And a great thing about it is that you learn to be more creative and to think out of the box. So some of us beat ourselves up about that. And I know I'm like that. I'll often say to people, I'm not creative. I'm very sort of do things one way, black and white, follow the instructions. I'm not very creative. But when it comes to problem solving, I actually realize that I can be quite creative and I kind of do myself an injustice by saying that. So maybe as I go along today, you'll also see, hey, I'm pretty good at problem solving and I'm often quite creative about how I do that and that I can think out the box when I need to. And why are these particular skills so important in the workplace? Well, let's be honest, the workplace of today is a demanding one. It's very different to what you and my parents, as an example, or even our grandparents, the kind of workplaces they went into. Sure, they thought it was demanding and relevant to their lifestyles and they had problems and challenges as well. But today, employers are demanding of us. They they demand that we can think on our toes really quickly, that we can think more creatively, and that we can come with fresh ideas and new ways of thinking, and that we challenge the workplace because workplaces themselves are evolving. The way work is being done is evolving. Let's just think about AI and how that's impacting the workplace today. So it's very demanding out there, and we've got to be able to say right in that first interview how we solve problems and how we are able to think more critically. There are no jobs without problems. I said that to you already. I know we dream sometimes of other jobs and think, goodness, they've got it so easy. I know that I do that. I'm guilty of that. But on the ground, they've also got problems. They've also got things they need to solve daily. They've been challenged in ways that we just maybe don't see at face value. And as I said to you, in the workplace, we're then able to make better decisions and we can work better under pressure if we do have critical thinking and problem solving skills. And a wonderful thing is that it builds our credibility in the workplace. You know, people look at us and go, oh, wow, look, she can think on her toes. She can think a little bit deeper and she can solve problems when she needs to. And our colleagues and our leaders and our managers certainly learn that they can trust us to deal with the hard stuff and to get through the hard stuff as well. Because we can adapt easily to challenges and we can adapt even to different roles within the workplace quite easily. Excuse me. And we'll be valued for being creative and for finding solutions. You know, you will find when management is sitting around a table and they may be doing performance reviews or that, they might say, wow, yeah, Carol's a good problem solver. She rises above the challenges and she gets things done. Those are the kind of skills that workplaces of today are valuing. And of course, on a personal level, you're going to increase your career opportunities as well. When they see that skill in you, when they see you can think critically and they see you can solve problems, it's going to take you far in the workplace. All right, so let's look a little bit at what is problem solving then. I mean, of course, it's solving a problem, right? But here's a definition. It's the ability to identify a challenge or a problem, because sometimes we can't even see it. So that is a key point and a key step. It's analyzing that problem, critically thinking, digging a little bit deeper, trying to understand it and understand the cause of it, and then coming up with those effective solutions, which sometimes needs our creativity because the way things have been done are maybe not working and we need to come up with a new way. So I'm going to share with you, as Pumla unpacked at the beginning, I am going to share some of these skills with you. But key steps in problem solving, it's a process, okay? There's steps involved, is number one, identifying, then analyzing, then you can use the skill of brainstorming. I'm going to share some ideas with you around that. Then you actually have to make a decision. You can't just stay stuck and frozen. You've got to make a decision on which way you're going to go. You've got to implement your solution and take action. And then I think a step that we very often forget to do because we're rushing and because we're always on this crazy hamster wheel of life is we forget to review it. We forget to have a moment to look back and go, did that work? Did it have the outcome that I wanted? Have I now solved this problem 100%? Or do I maybe need to review my steps and try a different approach this time? We just move on to the next problem, don't we? Because life keeps throwing those problems and challenges at us. But it's such a key step. So here I'm going to just start breaking down, analyzing the steps a little bit deeper for you. And I'm going to then later on use an example and some steps. And so sorry, I do see now and then hands popping up. Perhaps you are putting something in the chat and I'm not able to see it while I'm on this presenter mode. But please, Pumla, feel free to interrupt me if anyone does post a question or a comment that you feel we should chat about. Else we'll certainly do that towards the end. All right, but 5 nice, simple steps for problem solving. Number 1 is identifying the problem. Put a name to it. Actually describe, the problem. Let's use the example of problem, I don't have enough time. All right, that's a problem. It's going to impact every area on your life and how you're performing in all those different areas. So take a moment to identify the exact problem that you are sitting with and that's maybe keeping you stuck. Number 2, and this is where critical thinking is going to come in, which I'll unpack with you in a moment, but you're actually going to analyze the problem. Why is this problem happening? What's going on here? Why am I struggling like this? And why have I run out of time? Where am I going wrong during the day? Analyze the problem and start critically thinking about it and getting to that sort of root cause of it. The next step is developing your plan. What do I want to achieve here? Well, I want to feel a greater sense of work-life balance, or I want to meet my deadlines because there's a lot of them coming up. So, what is the goal? And what are you going to do to get there? And here you could use something like brainstorming. Write down all the different possibilities, all the different solutions that you could possibly try. And I'm going to go through this with you quite nicely just now and share, especially with time management as a problem, how you could unpack that a little bit more and some of the tools that you could use. But maybe let's say I do this analysis and I realize one of the key problems underlying this issue is procrastination. We all do that, right? We put things off and we're like, no, I don't want to do this today. I just can't face it. So I find myself easily distracted. I find myself on my phone. I find myself watching TikTok videos and all the things that I shouldn't be doing. So what am I going to do? Here's a possible solution. I am going to put my phone on silent and put it out of sight during, 10 to 12 every day while I then focus on my studies. So brainstorm what are some of the steps you could put in place and then implement them. You got to do it. You can't just think about it or, have a moment of, oh, that could be a great solution, and then expect that it's just going to solve itself. You've actually got to try it out. You've got to implement it. So if I said I'm going to switch off my phone from 10 to 12 every day so that I can focus on my studies, I've actually got to do it. All right. And then, as I said to you, the step we often miss out is planning or looking at that and going, reviewing it and going, did that work? Did I find that I was more productive for those 2 hours and I had more time because I wasn't distracted and on my phone? Then that worked. Then possibly there's some other solutions you could look at implementing as well. I found this and I wanted to share it with you because it's a nice acronym, IDEAL. So it's a nice quick way of using those problem solving steps. The I being for identify the problem, the D being that part where you dig deeper and you define it and try to figure out what's going on. The E is where you explore the solutions and maybe brainstorm what you could do to solve the problem. The A is where you take action and you implement it and you try it out. And then the L is for where you take that moment to reflect and you look back and go, did it solve the problem? Did it achieve the goal that I wanted it to achieve? All right, we'll go back into some of those tools a little bit later, but let's look at critical thinking now. I told you, when I saw anything in an exam paper that told me to think critically, I suddenly couldn't even think. Like I lost the ability to think, never mind think critically, because I was so scared Was I actually critically thinking? So, what is it when you see something asking you to think critically? What does it even mean? It really just means analyzing the information objectively. And there's a key word there, objectively. So you're not doing it subjectively. Subjectively is where you've got all your emotions involved and you like, letting your emotions get in the way and your personal experiences get in the way. You kind of step back from it and you look at all the information in front of you from an objective point of view, where you don't let it affect you personally and you don't get your emotions involved, and you also question your assumptions. For example, if using that first image I shared with you, if you believe that was a box, question your assumption. Why am I thinking that's a box? Where does that come from? Well, that's what I was taught, that a box has four sides, and that it's a square. So therefore it's a square. So you analyze and you think deeper. You don't just take it at face value. I think that's the most important thing. You don't just agree. You might analyze information and things and come back to the point that you do agree with the statement or whatever it was that you were asked to critically think about, but you've explained why you think about it that way. You explain the information that you have and you explain your point of view. So core elements of critical thinking is always asking questions, not just going straight, to the answer or accepting what has been said to you, but asking questions so that you can think a little bit deeper. Evaluating the evidence. The evidence is there. I believe I have the evidence that that is a square or that is a box, but let me look at it. Let me look at what evidence there really is and try to understand it. You also recognize that you have biases. You recognize that you come into that believing that, the color on the screen is blue. Maybe you have a bias towards blue because you love blue and you put blue on everything. And I often have color arguments with people and have to critically think about that when it comes to turquoises and greens and teals. Why do I think it's that color and somebody else is arguing, no, but this is actually not blue, it's green. So recognize that sometimes you have a bias because of the information that you have and the experiences that you've been through. But you can avoid snap decisions and snap judgments if you are critically thinking. So here again, just a quick definition. It's the ability to make an informed decision, evaluate and gather information. So there's that research element, ask questions, understand the expectations in front of you, like what are they wanting to get out of me here? And then weigh up that information and make a final decision on it, make a final statement in terms of what you believe or how you see things. So I'm going to play a short video now, and I'm hoping this will help to give you a little bit more perspective. So take a moment and let's enjoy this.
We're lucky to live in an age where the sum total of human knowledge is pretty much available at the click of a button. We've never had access to so much information, but not all of what's out there is quite what it seems. So here's a few strategies to navigate your way through and avoid falling out with people along the way. We all enjoy that sweet dopamine hit of feeling like we're right. In repeated experiments, psychologists have shown we're much more likely to accept something as evidence if it confirms what we already think we know, and much more likely to discount information if it contradicts our views. It's what's known as confirmation bias. It's one of the key cognitive biases that humans have, and operates at an unconscious level, affecting our ability to process information. This is especially true for issues which are emotionally charged, or where our views are deeply held, but it can come into play at any time. So don't rush to decide and be actively prepared to change your mind. So many of our discussions take place on social media platforms where algorithms reward our desire to see and hear our views confirmed. But in life, most situations are nuanced and complicated. Acknowledging that can enrich the way that we view the world. For example, what colour is the sky? Well, the obvious answer is blue. But at sunrise or sunset, it can be red. On a cold, misty morning, white or grey. At night, midnight blue or black. But imagine for a moment the blue of the sky on a sunny day. Is it really blue? The colour blue has a short wavelength, meaning it scatters more than other colours, making it more visible to the human eye. So the sky looks blue to us humans, even though there's a whole spectrum of colours out there. Even something that seems totally self-evident can be more nuanced than you think. One approach to, well, arguing, is to let go of the idea of being right, or at least seriously consider that you might actually be wrong. Putting yourself in the other person's shoes can lead to much more productive outcomes. Really try to understand where the other person is coming from. It's what's called intellectual empathy. It can be challenging, but that's the point. This can only work when both parties are engaging in good faith. Arguing just to waste somebody's time, known online as sea lioning, not only makes you that guy or girl people avoid at parties, but we are intellectually, socially, and politically worse off for it. It's more important than ever to know where your information is coming from. That sciencey looking graph about the dangers of feral Dalmatian puppies might look very convincing, until you dig a little deeper and find it was commissioned by fur coat coveting Disney villain Cruella de Vil. Be on the lookout for ulterior motives and vested interests. Becoming literate in the basics of scientific methodology, the use of data and the way it's presented are all weapons in your arsenal when it comes to critical thinking. Whether engaging in online debates or arguing with Uncle Frank, it's very easy to lose our cool and resort to some less than sound tactics. One common tactic is what philosophers call the straw man fallacy. Instead of engaging with the actual belief, you engage with a caricature. For example, if I said, I prefer hamsters to gerbils, you might respond, oh, so you want to drown all gerbils? A viewpoint that's much easier to take down. Another fallacy is the ad hominem fallacy, where you discount an argument because of your opinion of the person making it. This can lead to ad hominem attacks, which is basically Latin for name-calling. In that situation, it's fair to say that everybody loses. Engaging in critical thinking isn't as fun as picking up a pitchfork or feeling like you're fundamentally right, but in the long run, it leads to a more curious, educated, and harmonious society, which ultimately is the biggest win of all. Thanks for watching. If we're lucky.
All right, so there's a lot in that video, and it's really based on social media, which I think is such an important thing, but the internet in general, right? Because very often, of course, when we're studying, or when we're faced with the big task at work, we've got to put a project together or put content together for something, we're going to turn to the internet. And how much of that do we just take at face value? You know, chat GPT is a good example. I mean, is everything that it shares with us real? Or do we need to still critically think and just check, you know, what is really happening here and where is this information coming from? And then at the same time, trying to understand what biases do I maybe have against the people that are sharing this information, or because of the way I believe things should be. And I think they called it sea lioning, which was an interesting one. I haven't heard that before, but I know it is trolling. Maybe you do as well. So put that aside when you're working, you know, on something critically and having to do critical thinking in the workplace or in your studies. You're not trolling the person and sort of calling them names or telling them that they're wrong. Yes, we all want to be right, and we all want to believe, as you heard there, there's even a dopamine hit in the brain that makes us feel good when we know that we're right or when we think that we're right. So it is hard to step aside from all of that and to try see another person's perspective. Try to understand, why do they see this as blue where I'm seeing it as green, as an example. So even with critical thinking, and now, yeah, you're going to see, I'm going to unpack a little bit of how these are linked, and they're so closely sort of, you know, merged with each other. But you have to start by understanding the problem. So when you're looking at an argument like the sky is blue, I'll just use what they shared in that video, define what the problem clearly is. Ask yourself, well, what is the issue here? The issue is I'm not seeing blue. I'm seeing more shades of green, as an example. And then start to break that problem down. Your next step is gathering the information, like I've said to you, collecting the facts, looking at data, reading whatever you can, but again, taking different perspectives into account. And don't just rely on assumptions, because that isn't critical thinking. If you just rely on the assumption that the sky is always blue, as an example. So let me share with you now, as I promised you, some time management problem solving, because I can still see some hands are still up, but we don't have enough time. And that's one of our biggest problems that both you and I face at this time. So starting with identifying the problem. What is the problem? I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to fit everything into the day and to meet my deadlines with my studies. I want to ask you to think about that critically, and I want you to become a little bit more self-aware and dig a little bit deeper here. Ask yourself, well, how am I feeling right now? I'm feeling exhausted, and I'm using one of the responses somebody gave earlier, excuse me, in the Mentimeter question, but I'm feeling exhausted. Then you could ask yourself, well, why am I feeling this way? Well, maybe I didn't get a good night's sleep last night. Maybe yesterday was intense. I had an early start to the day. I had back to back to back to back meetings and all kinds of things. I never had a moment to catch my breath. I never had a moment to even stretch my legs. I was just stuck in a chair, and I'm just feeling completely overwhelmed. And then you start to problem solve by asking yourself, well, what can I do about it? You're starting to think more critically about things and asking yourself, well, what am I going to do about it? And what can I do about it? A next step would be gathering facts, gathering the information. And I mean, this is on a personal level, so you may not be able to do like super deep research here, but collect the facts. Look at your hours in the day. Where is my time going? If I'm not getting everything done at work, or I'm not able to fit in my studies during the day, what is going on there? Write down a 24-hour sort of schedule and fill in for yourself hour for hour. Where is your time going? Maybe you might find from that there's too many meetings, and I think we can all answer that for those of us who work. There's always too many meetings. Maybe there's too many distractions. And maybe I'm just not planning properly for the day. So I start on the back foot because I'm not prepared. I haven't cleared my desk. I don't know my schedule for the day. I haven't prepared what I needed to prepare for everything that's important today. So maybe I'm losing time because of some of my poor organization skills and my poor planning skills. Then digging a little bit deeper and thinking critically about it. What are my priorities? What is actually urgent? Sometimes we feel like everything is urgent, but that's because we're leaving it to the last minute. So what is actually important? What is urgent? What are the things that I have to get done today? And what are some of the habits that I have that don't actually add value to my day? And again, I'm going to just pick on social media and pick on our phones, because that's where we do all, and I'm guilty, where we all lose a lot of our time. But maybe that's not adding value to the day, because I am losing a lot of time going down that TikTok video hole. And when I blink, it's an hour and a half, and I'm like, oh my goodness, where did the time go? So really evaluate and look at your time and try to understand, what do you need to prioritize? And then you can think a little bit more critically as well. What matters the most? Well, my studies matter the most to me because I want to finish this year, because I want to graduate. Or from a work perspective, that deadline that my boss gave me for Friday, that's going to impact on my performance scores or on the commission that I'm going to earn, or whether I can take some time off next week or not. So, what matters the most? You need to ask yourself that. It's going to help you prioritize. And then also, in terms of collaboration, is there anyone you know at home or in your workspace who could help you to get things done? Even within the Academy of York team, if you do have, you're part of that WhatsApp group with your fellow students studying the same course, is there anybody that could help you? Maybe they could share across some of the readings that you've not been able to find. Or maybe somebody at home could take on a task that you always take on and you need to pass it on to somebody else. And I always use silly examples for those of us who have pets as an example. But just for, feeding the pet or filling their water bowl every day, that's something we can delegate to a housemate or a family member that can free up some time and free up some mental capacity. Or washing the dishes. Can somebody else just step up once a week and wash the dishes for you to free that time for you so that you could go study or, do some research for an assignment? Here's a nice sort of method that you could use as well that can help you. You can ask yourself or use if I do this, what will the outcome be? If I put off my phone, how will I feel? What will that mean for me? What might the outcome be? Then make a decision. I will switch off my phone. I will delegate and ask somebody in the house to please feed the dog and wash the dishes for me, even if it's just for the next month while I get my studies done. And then that skill of reflecting. Did it work? What didn't work? Am I going to do this again? Or if this happens and I'm so under pressure again with these deadlines, will this work? Can I ask others to step up and help me? Then I'm going to do this. So do you see where the critical thinking comes in there? If you do this, what are the pros and cons? Here's a tool. Here's one of the tools when it comes to problem solving. The pros might be that you'll feel less stressed. You can leave work feeling good if you've managed, for example, to delegate or you've met that deadline. You're going to achieve your goals. You're going to increase your productivity. You feel like you have a little bit more work-life balance and some time to breathe and do things you enjoy. And it's going to help you with your personal and professional growth. If you don't make the change and you don't implement, what's the cons? No flexibility. You're just going to feel so rigid and so rushed every day. And there's a pressure to always be efficient because you're so scared of dropping any balls. You don't get any time to relax and catch your breath. And then you're going to also feel that frustration when things don't work out or you don't achieve what you want to do. So there's just an example of a pros and cons list. But we know we just have to do it. I said to you earlier, it's great identifying a problem. It's great thinking about it critically and try to understand where it comes from. But if we don't do something and take action, we've wasted all that time and we've wasted all that energy. So you have to take action. Stop procrastinating. Stop being stuck. Take that step. Even if it lands up being the wrong one, that's okay because you'll learn from that. But put your chosen solution into practice with a plan. If I go A, this is what I'm going to do. If I take step B, this is what I'm going to do. Look at how you can assign tasks and deadlines if you're working with others, if it's a group project as an example. What are the resources, excuse me, that you could share and put it into action. And again, last time I'll probably mention it, but review it and reflect. Look at the results. Did it work? Was this the outcome you wanted? Do you have more time now? Did you achieve the marks you wanted to on that assignment because you were able to focus more and you could problem solve around some of the issues impacting there? And always ask yourself, what could I do better the next time? How could I improve? Here's another short video for you to watch.
Just give me under a minute and I'll change the way you look at your life. Just listen. Motivation isn't given, it's built through consistent action. It's not something you're born with. It's the reward you get from making consistent progress over time. You don't get inspired without first doing the work. Every single second you waste waiting for motivation to strike, you lose the opportunity to build your dream. You don't need motivation. What you need is discipline. The truth is, motion always beats motivation. Stop waiting to feel ready for a moment that'll never arrive, because you've never leveled up while you were drifting on autopilot. So stop waiting to make the right decision. Instead, make the decision, then make it right. That's how you get motivated.
How lovely is that? So true. It's summing up what I'm trying to say to you about taking action. Sometimes we wait. We don't want to solve this problem. We don't want to tackle this challenge. And we use the excuse that I'm waiting for the moment to be right, or I'm waiting to have enough energy, or I'm waiting for it to be spring. I'm waiting for a sunny day. We make all these excuses and we think motivation is just going to come and hit us on the head and off we'll go. We have to take action. And I love what he says in that video because I so firmly believe that. Take action, make a decision, find the route you're going to go, and then you can make it right later because we learn from our mistakes. We learn, when things go right, we learn when things go wrong, but at least we're doing something and we're moving forward and we able to start working on that challenge rather than just sitting back waiting for it to magically be solved or waiting for that right moment. So summarizing a little bit here, what then, Carol, are critical thinking skills? Because there's so much around problem solving and all these steps that you're sharing today. Problem solving is a critical thinking skill. Reasoning, looking at different information, trying to make sense of it, analyzing it, making an actual decision at the end of it, and always evaluating the different information you have at hand. So the two are so closely linked. You can't actually separate critical thinking and problem solving because the core of both of them are analyzing information, evaluating evidence that you have objectively, addressing complex issues and challenges that come your way, being careful of those biases that you might have that you just respond with immediately and that you argue with without any basis or without any actual, evidence to back up your claims. And also that critical thinking then helps you make more informed decisions in your workplace, in your personal life, in your career, and you can navigate some complex scenarios more confidently if you know you've put in the work and that you've really analyzed things and looked at all the factors, looked at all the options. And the more you critically think, the better your problem solving skills will be because you're not just hoping problems go away or putting a quick band-aid on a problem or, a plaster on a problem because you've really understood what is happening here. And I'm quickly going to, just connect that Menti. And I wanted to just hear from you if you'd like to share, and we can take a moment to catch our breath here. But I know I've touched on a few skills and I'm going to finish off now looking at some other tools that you can use, some practical tools. But when you are faced with a hard problem, how do you normally solve it? Whether it be as basic as whatever, the internet is down, you're not going to meet a deadline at work or with your studies, or life has really thrown you a curveball and you've got some financial issues you're facing. What are the skills that you lean on that help you to solve a problem? And somebody shared something wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Step 1, pause. Love it. Love it. Taking that moment, getting off that hamster wheel that's spinning for you, and taking a moment to pause and reflect on the problem and start to really analyze it. Thank you for whoever shared that. That is really lovely. Practicing the pause, so powerful. Just giving yourself a moment to think. Anybody else have any ways that they solve problems? Whether it's the most basic thing that you do, how do you solve the problems that come your way? because I'm willing to bet you've solved a lot of problems up to today, big and small. All right. We can always go back to this. Maybe you'll be triggered with some of the other things that I share with you as we go along. I've always found, to be honest with you, pros and con lists, as simple as they sound, pros and con lists work for me. I will sit with what I think is a solution or what I think is the way that I want to go, and I make a pros and a con list. And I write it down. I'm old school. I like to write things down. And then I can look at it and see, you know what? There are more pros here. There are more positive outcomes than cons if I were to go in this direction. And I like to use that to help me and to know what could be some of the downfalls along the way. And then I own up to them and I'll admit, yes, I knew that this was possibly going to happen, but I'm willing to take the consequences because I made an informed decision. All right, helpful techniques and strategies that I want to share with you because I know time is of the essence. I want to share with you the 5 whys, how you can, use that to really get to the root cause of a problem and analyze it and think about it critically. Mind mapping, that pros and cons list that I've just shared with you that works for me. Active questioning, it's going to be covered in all of that. And then not to forget, group work and collaborating with others, whether it's in your personal life or whether it's at the workplace, are very, very helpful. And even in your study journey. So here's a really practical example to help you think a bit deeper critically and to help you problem solve. Ask yourself the 5 whys. So it's really about asking why 5 times. I just gave you a very basic example here because when I'm in the office, this is one of the things that happens all the time and drives me crazy. But the printer keeps jamming. The printer keeps breaking. So you'd ask yourself, why is the printer not working? It's a paper jam. Why is there a paper jam? Because they're using the wrong type of paper. Why are they using the wrong type of paper? Because office management changed the supplier. So there's a different type of paper being used. Why did they change the supplier? It was a cost-cutting decision because this new paper is cheaper. Why is this new paper cheaper and why is it not working? Because there was no consultation with the people that actually use the printer and use the paper. It was just a cost decision that was made, a procurement decision. So it's not actually the printer that's wrong, it's the paper that's wrong. And then you can start thinking about solutions or helping solve the problem. Well, guys, we need to get the right paper, else we're going to sit with this problem consistently. A very basic one, I know. But do you see just how drilling down and asking why 5 times can help really unpack and get to the problem rather than taking it at face value of, oh, the printer keeps jamming. Another lovely example and a practical one that you can use is a mind map. Our brains are very visual. So sometimes a great way for you to solve a problem or to think about something critically is using a mind map. So you could, in the middle, write what the key thing is. And I'm going to just use time management as an example. So write time management, and then you could ask yourself, what is going wrong here? I don't have enough time to get to my studies. Why don't I have enough time? And you can always use the 5 whys there. When does this happen? Is it every month, every day, every time I have a deadline? Or is it just right now because there's a lot happening at work as well, or there's a lot going on in my personal life? So there's a manageable time that I can work around. How are things going wrong? How is this happening? Who's involved? Who could I lean on to help me solve this? And maybe aware as well. Where do I need to make changes? Where do I need to cut back on time that I'm wasting? So you could just use all those different questions and write down the answers and help yourself to think critically and help yourself to solve the problem. So this is just a summary of those questions, how you can analyze and dig a little bit deeper. Who, why, where, what, when, where. Ask yourself all those questions and help to unpack it. And remember, a problem shared is a problem halved. So don't forget the power of collaboration, the power of teamwork. I know when we face problems, we often think we're in it alone. This is my problem, I'll solve it. I often say that to people as well. No, don't worry, it's not your problem, it's mine. I'll sort it out. But really, if we took a moment and we paused and we looked at it, maybe somebody else could help us here. Maybe somebody else could help us solve the problem. Maybe they've experienced something like this before. Maybe they've also struggled with their studies. Maybe this particular course was something they completed, and I want to hear from them. How did they do that? How did they balance their time? Maybe it is somebody at home, like I shared with you, that could take on 1 or 2 tasks just to help you out for a month or 2 while you work on those deadlines. So think about it and think how you could probably share a problem. It doesn't mean you're passing it on to them and going, Tag, you're it, your problem now. You're still owning the problem, but you're just inviting that collaboration, that connection to get somebody else that could possibly give you some advice and information here. And don't forget the power of perception. Remember, I touched on this right at the beginning where I said, I used the example of maybe the box is a circle or perhaps blue is green. Don't forget that we all have different perceptions on things. And if you take a moment to think about that, it's going to help you think more critically and understand where that person is coming from with their argument. And looking at the picture on the screen, I'm wondering, what do you see? Maybe you could put it in the chat quickly. What do you see with this picture that I've put onto the screen for you? No, Pumla, I can't see the chat. Would you mind just sharing if anybody answers? Because I'm so curious to hear, what are people seeing? I just want to share the power of perception here.
Shannon says she sees an old lady.
Aha, okay, thank you, Sharon.
And Haley
Anybody else?
says an old lady and woman in a hat. Kangelwa says a bride. And Kodule says an old lady or a young woman facing the other way. I also see an old lady.
You also see an old lady. Okay, wonderful. We're seeing the
And
different
Benedict says he
perceptions.
sees a lion. And Gina says a lady wearing a black fur coat and white duke. And we've got Tulani saying a woman wearing a duke.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That's so nicely described. That can you see, and I want to just try to show you the two perceptions. I mean, it's fascinating. There's even different perceptions. So thank you. I know somebody shared they even see a lion as an example. That's creative. That's wonderful. The picture actually technically has 2 images in it, and it depends on our perception of the picture. So most of you that have shared see the old woman. So for those who don't see the old woman, just look, you see the white duck, there's a bit of like a feather on the one side. That black there would maybe be her fringe or her hair sticking out. You can see her eye, and she's got quite the big nose, and then a very sharp chin and a sharp, straight mouth. Maybe you can see that. But shift your perception here, and can you see the young woman? She's looking away over her shoulder. What would be the old lady's eye is her ear, and you are seeing a necklace rather than her mouth, and you can kind of see her eyelashes and her little nose sticking out. And I guess she also has some sort of a duck cape sort of thing on her. But can you see the 2 images? And which one did you see first? It's so interesting. I've seen this image so many times. Sometimes I look at it and I only immediately see the old woman. And then months, years later, it pops up somewhere in my life again, and I only see the young woman. And I have to take a moment to go, I know there's an old woman in here. Where is it? And then I have to focus and start to see the nose and the sharp mouth and the fringe and the eye. I mean, she looks a bit like I don't know, a witch or a very grumpy old granny, right? So what do you see? What did you see first? Please hold that in mind. And this is where I'm getting you to think critically. There are always different perceptions, and sometimes things aren't always the way we see them. So, what do you see? I'm going to finish off with a short video about problem solving. I know we're basically at time, but if you can hang on, just give me 2 more minutes and we'll finish off. But I want to share this lovely story with you.
Donkey slipped
Oops,
and
sorry, let's get it to the
once
beginning.
upon a time, a farmer's donkey slipped and fell into an old, deep well. The donkey cried and cried for hours. The farmer, seeing no way to pull him out and knowing the well was old, shook his head sadly. It's too much trouble. We'll fill it in and move on. Many villagers came with shovels and began shoveling dirt into the well to bury the donkey. The donkey grew quiet, thinking this was the end. But soon, with every shovel of dirt that landed on his back, the donkey did something amazing. He shook it off and stepped up. As more dirt fell, the donkey shook it off, stepped up, shook it off, stepped up. Soon, he stepped over the edge. The villagers stopped and watched in awe as the donkey trotted out, leaving the well behind. The well was filled, but the donkey was free. Life will shovel dirt on you. Every trouble can become a stepping stone. What's important is how you react. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
How lovely is that? Such a
Once
simple
upon
story, but look at that. It's so easy to let problems bog us down. That donkey could have just accepted its fate, just let the villagers throw the soil, let him be buried, and he was silent. So I'm going to assume for a moment the donkey was thinking, well, this is the end. I'm not even going to bother calling out and crying out anymore. Let me just accept my fate. But something shifted in the donkey, and there was a way that it could see to get out of this. And it shook off the dirt. It used the dirt as a stepping stone. A lovely little fairy tale, short, sweet, simple. But I want you to walk away with that. Life's going to throw dirt at us, right? But just shake it off. Now I sound like a Taylor Swift song, but shake it off and see how you could use it as a stepping stone to grow, to develop, to find solutions, to be creative, because there is always a way out of the well. Even if we can't see it in that moment, there is always a way out of the well. So I'm going to finish by summarizing a reminder. Critical thinking and problem solving are so connected. You can't do one without the other. And they're highly valued in life and in the workplace. You can develop both of them if you practice. Just try some of the steps. Take a moment, pause, step back, try some of the things I've shared with you today. Practice will make perfect. Look at challenges as opportunities, like the donkey did. Look for challenges as ways to grow, way to develop, way to think critically, way to problem solve, ways that you can shine. And remember, lastly, that you don't have to do it alone. A problem shared is a problem halved. Yes, it might still be your problem, but maybe there's just somebody you can lean on that can help you in that moment and that you don't have to do it all alone. All right, I'm done. I'm done. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to open up the chat here so I can just see, please, any questions, any comments. But I want to see, okay, I see a young lady. I saw the lady looking over her shoulder. I saw the old lady. Wonderful. Thank you guys for sharing your input there. Never forget that. And it's an interesting one. You can find that picture on the internet. And if you want to have a constructive argument with somebody, show them that picture and ask them what they see. It's really interesting. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Good luck with this last stretch of this crazy, crazy year. Use those critical thinking skills. Be creative. Think out the box. Solve those problems. Step on that dirt. And I look forward to seeing you in, I think, the December or November Wisdom Wednesday. I'll see you again. Thank you, Pumla, for your support. And thank you, everybody. Please take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
So much, Carol. Bye.